You invoke a custom function and want to validate its result. You select the function query, but instead of a sequence of applied steps, you see this. Parameters, 2 buttons, and below that, the signature. So how can you see what's happening inside? In this video, I'll share a debugging method for custom functions. Hi, I'm Melissa, and it's good to have you here. If you want to follow along, there's a link to the GitHub resources in the description. So before you start debugging, always duplicate your function query. Just right-click it and select Duplicate. That will give you a backup, a working copy you can return to. It only takes seconds, but it gives you the freedom to experiment without worrying about how to undo every change that you made. This is the custom function we built in the previous video. It promotes headers that are spread across multiple rows. Now if you haven't seen that one, I'll link to it here and below in the description. This function takes a table, a start row, and a row count, and returns a transformed table. But this query evaluates to a function value. That's why the editor shows this interface, instead of showing you the transformation steps from its function body. Only when a function is invoked will Power Query evaluate that function body to generate a result, either a value or an error. But it doesn't give you a step-by-step view of how that result was produced. To look inside, the code must be modified. So let's head to the advanced editor. The first step is to disable the function declaration. I will highlight that first line. It shows the parameter list, so all names and types, the function return type, and the goes to assign. I'll press Shift-Alt-A to disable that, to temporarily comment that section out. Now the function body itself did not change. Parameter names such as t, start row, row count used to receive a value from a function call. Now that's been disabled, and those names are undefined. If we leave it like this, that will raise an error, as Power Query doesn't know what those names refer to. Let me show you. It's showing the first parameter from the parameter list, and it tells you it's missing a reference. Now to resolve that, we must supply a value for every input, so let's head back to the advanced editor. I will add those right at the top to clearly separate them from my function body. So the first is t, and we can pass it our table raw data. I'll copy start row and pass it 6. I'll copy row count and pass it 3. Let's press done. Looking at the query pane, this query no longer returns a function value. Instead, it returns a table, and the applied steps lists all of the variables in the top level let expression of this query. So we can click through each one to review its result. So let's select offset. That returns 5, the start row -1. Headers shows all of the new column names, and transform shows the final outcome. This is how you turn a function into a query with visible steps. However, the let expression has one limitation. You can only review one single value at a time. Sometimes you want a more complete picture that tells you which calculation succeeded and where an error was first introduced. Now to achieve that, we can convert our let expression into a record expression. Let's head back to the advanced editor. Let's select the top let and get rid of that. Instead, we'll do an opening square bracket there and replace in and whatever follows it with a closing square bracket. Let's press done. Now our query returns a record and we can see the result of each field. Every field contains a value. Fields can refer to or depend on other fields, just like variables within a let expression. But a record gives you this diagnostic-like overview, making it easy to see if a change introduced a new problem further down the line or had the desired effect. So now that we can see every value, we still have some nested expressions. If I open this up and scroll down, we can see headers, for example. That contains 3 nested expressions. First, table.range extracts specific rows from the table. Then table columns converts that table into a list of lists. And finally, list.transform processes all of those lists into a nullable text value. Every expression feeds directly into the next, and we should separate them to see which expression returns what. Let's head back to the advanced editor. First, I'll take the innermost expression. I'll just cut that, pressing Ctrl X. Let's create a new variable. Let's call that header rows. Now we can convert this output using table.toColumns. And pass it our header rows. And now we can pass that to the list transform function. Press done. We've now separated that expression. Header rows returns the table. Header to columns converts that table into a list of lists. And then headers combines remaining values into new column names. Now if one of these values errors or returns an unexpected result, we can quickly identify where. But what if headers needs debugging? This processes all of the columns. To see what's happening to one specific column, we need to pull out a single item and trace that through the entire operation. Now remember that item access is zero-based. We're going to use the values from column 6. Here we go. We'll head back to the advanced editor. Create a new variable here. Call header to columns. Use item access, so that's the set of those curly brackets, and pass it a 5. This will return the column values for one column, and we can remove anything that we don't want from it. So let's copy this expression. Pass it the single column. We're going to transform them to text, so we can grab this as well. Pass it the cleaned list and combine whatever remains. Let's review. So a single column, cleaned, got rid of that null value. To text, ensure that all of the values remaining in the list are of a text data type. And combine, just combine them. And I forgot to add a space there. Let's change that. So to text, add a single space as a separator. There we go. To review this for a different column, all we have to do is update the index. So let's check out the first column, so column at position 0, and now combined returns an empty text string. Perfect. There's one more nested transformation, and that's transform here. Again, 3 different function calls within each other, so we're going to separate those as well. Let's head back to the advanced editor. Let's pull that apart. Grab the innermost expression. I'll press Ctrl X. That's the table body. Now we can construct the header row as a record. So we can grab this expression as well. Insert that header row within the table. Pass it the table body. The header row, and promote headers. Let's press done. So now we can review every stage. Here's the table body. So all of the column header rows and anything at the top is gone. The header row as a record. The header row inserted in the table, and the final outcome. So once you've found and fixed an issue or validated the process, you can restore your query back to a function query. That requires 3 things. First, we need to apply field access to return the final outcome. Let's head back to the advanced editor. The result of this function query is stored within the transform field, so we can apply field access to return its value. Right after that closing square bracket, we're going to enter another set of square brackets to apply field access and refer to its name, transform. This will tell Power Query to return the value from that field. The second thing we need to do is comment out our hard-coded parameter values. You can keep them in there to make the next debugging session much faster. Just make sure to disable them or they will override any of the argument values that you're passing to your function. And the third thing is to restore the function declaration to return a function value. Let's press done. Perfect. This version works exactly like the initial one, but now all intermediate values are easy to review. If you found this useful, a like or a comment is a great way to let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time.